Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All together, please. Om Jnana Tamarandasya Ganandana Salakaya Chaksurum Yelitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karana Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapcha Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sutadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vevacha Paritanan Bhavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So, reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary, the Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, Canto 6, Chapter 4. Text number 4 is on the board. Text number 1, 2 and 3 have no purport. So I'll read the Sanskrit and the English translation, and then we'll chant this together in the normal manner. Okay? So the chapter is entitled The Hamsa Guhya Prayers. Text number 1. Shri Rajavacha. Oh no, I'll just recite them. If you like, you can join in with me if you know the Bhagavatam off by heart. Deva Soraninam Sargo Naganam Rigu Pashanam Samasikas Tvaya Prokto Yastu Swayam Bhuve Narante Taishyaiva Vyasam Ichchami Jantum Te Bhagavam Yata Anusargam Yata Shaktya Sasharga Bhagavan Para. Translation, Srila Prabhupada. The Blessed King said to Sukadeva Goswami, so that will be Parikshit Maharaj. Their conversation is continuing. My dear Lord, the demigods, demons, human beings, nagas, beasts and birds were created during the reign of Swayambhuva Manu. You have spoken about this creation briefly in the 3rd canto. Now I wish to know about it elaborately. I also wish to know about the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by which he brought about the secondary creation. Sri Sutta Vacha. Kali Yuga. No respect for the Bhagavatam. They think coming to the temple is a photo opportunity. Tell those people to either be quiet or leave. Iti samprashnam akanya rajase bhadarayani praptinandya mahayogi jagatta muni sattamaha. Sukadeva Goswami said, O great sages assembled in Naimisharanya, after the great yogi Sukadeva Goswami heard Maharaj Parikshit's inquiry, he praised it and thus replied. So now we're on to text verse 4. Please repeat. Shri Sukha Uvacha Yada Prachetasaha Putra Dasha Prachina Bahisaha Antah Samudrad Unmagna Dadrishur Gam Drumer Vritam Shri Sukavacha Yada Pretasaha Putra Dasha Prachana Bharishaha Anta Samudrad Unmagna Dadsurgam Dhurmavritam Shri Sukavacha Yada Prachetasaha Putra Dasha Prachani Bhahishaha Anta Samudrad Unmagna Dadrisho Gam Dumevritam Matajis? Any Mataji with good eyesight and a brave soul? Shri Sukavacha Iti Namakad Anta Samudrad Unmagna Dadrisho Gam Drumevritam. Please repeat, word for word. Shri Sukavacha. Sukadev Goswami said, Yada, when, Prachetasaha, the Pretas, the Pretasas, the Prachetas, Putraha, the sons, Dasha, 10, Prachina Bahisaha, of King Prachini Bahi, Anta Samudrat, from within the ocean, Unmagnaha, emerged, Dadrishu, they saw, Gam, the entire planet, Drumavritam, covered with trees. Translation, Srila Prabhupada. Sukadev Goswami said, when the 10 sons of Parachani Bahi emerged from the waters in which they were performing austerities, they saw that the entire surface of the world was covered by trees. Please repeat. Sukadev Goswami said, when the 10 sons of Prachani Bahi emerged from the waters in which they were performing austerities, they saw that the entire surface of the world was covered by trees. Purport Srila Prabhupada. When King Prachina Bahi was performing Vedic rituals in which the killing of animals was recommended, Narada Muni, out of compassion, advised him to stop. Prachini Bahi understood Narada properly and then left the kingdom to perform austerities in the forest. His 10 sons, however, were performing austerities within the water, and therefore there was no king to see to the management of the world. When the 10 sons, the Prachetas, came out of the water, they saw that the earth was overrun with trees. When the government neglects agriculture, which is necessary for the production of food, the land becomes covered with unnecessary trees. Of course, many trees are useful because they produce fruits and flowers, but many other trees are unnecessary. They could be used as fuel and the land cleared and used for agriculture. When the government is negligent, less grain is produced. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 1844, Krishi Goraksha Vanijam Vaishyakarma Svabhavajam. The proper engagement for the Vaishyas, according to their nature, the proper engagements for the Vaishyas, according to their nature, are to farm and to protect cows. The duty of the government and the Kshatriya is to see that the members of the third class, the Vaishyas, who are neither Brahmanas nor Kshatriyas, are thus properly engaged. Kshatriyas are meant to protect human beings, whereas the Vaishyas are meant to protect useful animals, especially cows. Mukam krochi vachalam bhangam laite girim yad kripatamaham bande Shri Gurun dinatarinam. Sri Sutta Vacha iti prasnam akanya rajase bhadarayanihi pratinanya mahayogi. Wrong verse. Sri Sutta Vacha yada pretasaha putra dasha prikshana bahisaha anta sumudrad unmagna dad sorgam drumevritam. Sukadev Goswami said, when the 10 sons of Prachinibahi emerged from the waters in which they were performing austerities, they saw that the entire surface of the world was covered by trees. So, this was, presently we're in Vaivasvaswata Manu, who is the 7th Manu in the sequence of 14 Manus. Each day of Brahma contains 1,000 Divya Yugas. And a Divya Yuga is a combination of Kali Yuga, Dwarpa Yuga, Treta Yuga, and Kali Yuga. Satya Yuga. So presently we're in the 28th of the 7th Manu. This took place, according to the research I did, in the Chakshusha Manu. Now we understand, who is number 6. Now we understand that from this, the Prachetas, they were performing austerities for 10,000 years in the water. So this seems very extraordinary, and of course the mundane scientists, they consider that only life can live in according to these conditions that we have presently on the earth. They always look around the universe and they say, well, 10 billion light years away, there seems to be a planet that seems to have the same conditions as Earth, so it seems that evolution could have taken place there. And they could also be watching television just like us. So, this is a foolish idea. First of all, we don't trust your perception of planets millions and billions of miles away. But your base idea that life can only exist according to the conditions that are present now on this planet at this time in Kali Yuga, and that is the only format for consciousness to arise out of dull matter, which interestingly displays no sign of consciousness. So the answer, the speculative answer to that is, when matter is arranged in a certain complexity, then consciousness appears. At what point? We see that matter is now being very complex and arranged according to mobile phones, right? All over the world, there's a great big machine of wires and capability and hundreds of nubs and cells and people. So eventually, according to that theory, the mobile phone network should become conscious. We just need a few billion more phones, and the mobile phone network, because of its material complexity, will become conscious and start phoning everybody spontaneously. So we take that idea with a pinch of salt, that material complexity gives rise to consciousness. No, the fact is that the material body is the yantra, it is the machine for the soul. Yantra rudrani mayaya. This is in the Gita, that we are seated within a material body made of the gross elements, and these gross elements, they are harmonious to the particular material situation, but the soul is not dependent. The consciousness which emanates from the soul, not from the material body, that soul is not dependent on the material body, nor is the soul damaged in any way. What's that verse? Nainam jintanti shastrani nanam dardi parvaka. All right? The soul is not moistened by water, withered by wind, burned by fire, so on and so forth. That the soul is independent in its existence, and the soul is emanating consciousness within the material body, which is a yantra of two levels, gross and subtle, mental body and gross body. So if the soul has a suitable body, he can live in the water. We see that with fishes. We see that there are living entities living at the bottom of the ocean, surrounded next to a volcanic vent. They never get light, but they're existing there. But they have a suitable body. If you and I go there, we can't even reach that depth. We can't survive in that, the material body, but the soul will survive. So according to the material conditions on all the different planets and planetary systems throughout the universe, there are living entities. There are living entities, but they are situated within gross and subtle bodies that are suitable for that environment. For example, if you wanted to live on the sun planet, what would be the suitable material body? One of water or fire? Yes, obviously. And if you want to live on this planet, you have to have a mixture of gross elements and subtle elements. And in the gross body, we see watery elements, earth elements, we see fire, we see air, and so on. This is tuned to this. So there are living entities on the sun planet, but we are only seeing the gross aspect through this gross machinery of the sun planet. However, if you have a suitable material body, a subtle body in this case, and you could live very happily on the sun planet. You could live on Chandraloka, but you have to have a body that's attuned to that. And the soul, according to his karma and his desire, it's Icha and Karma, he will take birth in different situations throughout the material universe. And by the grace of Supersoul and the agents of Supersoul, he will receive a material body that's suitable to that situation. Confirmed. So, this material body that we have now in Kali Yuga is tuned to this condition. Now, as we said earlier, this is Kali Yuga, and in Kali Yuga, 432,000 years, People live maximum 100 years, more or less, and they have a body according to this condition. In the previous age, which was double the length of the present Kali Yuga, 864,000 years, they have different bodies. They live for 1,000 years. Kali Yuga starts when Krishna leaves the planet. At the Battle of Kurukshetra, Krishna was 100 years old. But when he left, he was, according to Shastra, Acharya, 125. That begins the Kali Yuga. So in Dwapara Yuga, the method of self-realization is deity worship. And because Krishna appears, Swayam Bhagavan appears in the 28th Divya Yuga of the 7th Manu, directly from Golok. Therefore, the opulence of Treta Yuga extends into Dwapara Yuga. Treta Yuga is 3 times the length of Kali Yuga. So that would be 1,296 years. And people live 10,000 years. So do you think they have the same body that we have? At the age of 50, 60, we're all getting arthritis, heart attacks? No. They have different format. The conditions upon the planet are different. The bodies are more subtle and the conditions are more favorable for extended life. So before that, there is Satya Yuga, and that is 4 times the length of Kali Yuga. So 1 Divya Yuga is 10 times of 1 unit of Kali Yuga. So 4 Kali Yugas, 432,000 years, times 4 would make it 1,728,000 years. So they are living 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 years. So it's very interesting to note that the extended life of people in such a yuga is 100,000. The meditation is the process of self-realization in that age. Now, because we are informed by Bhagavatam that the Pretas performed austerities for 10,000 years within the ocean, therefore they were great masters of yogic power. They had great material facility in their body. If we jump in the Jamuna now to take bath at Keshi Ghat, we have to pop out after 10 seconds because it's rather cold in the winter. And the way the demoniac civilization is, you might not survive if you take Archaman. But that is another question. So in such a yuga, people are living 100,000 years. And you will find stories of the great sages meditating for 60,000 years. Just like a devotee, he may take up chanting when he's about 20, and he will chant for 40 years, and he becomes 60. And he can become self-realized in 40 years in Kali Yuga if he chants sincerely and avoids offenses, where it may take 60,000 years to attain that. But of course, the conditions in such a yuga are different. So we can understand that the Prachetas were performing this austerity with a different bodily equipment than we are. And we should understand, as I said before, that there are many varieties of material body. Even within the Earth planet, we see a great variety. Of course, the foolish material scientists are speculating that only life exists on this planet. But that idea is based in atheism. If a government builds a big city, it doesn't just populate one apartment in the city, does it? It builds a big city to fill it all up. So Krishna doesn't create a huge, gigantic universe through Lord Brahma, secondary creator mentioned. He doesn't do that and then just put life on Earth planet. If you believe there's a God, why would he create a vast universe and only populate one corner of it? Of course, previously, because of speculative approach, to the cosmology of the universe, people have speculated exactly like that. Oh, that there is heaven up there somewhere, then this planet is here, and there's hell below. And the mountains are on earth to stop earth floating up to heaven. These ideas are to be found in the man-made religions. But if you actually want to see things that are beyond your perception, beyond your speculative ability, then you should study Bhagavatam in disciplic succession. You should bow your head to the sadhu, to the sage, to the rishi, to the guru, and you should take lessons and perform sadhana as prescribed by the guru in accordance with Shastra, and then by the grace of Krishna you can realize the status of the universe, the conditions within it. And you also, because you are a spirit body, soul, within the material body, you also can travel all over the universe if you develop enough yogic power. And these things are described in the Bhagavatam. People travel throughout the universe. They may have even a gross body, but they know the art of leaving the gross body and traveling in the subtle body. There is one Vaidinath Tirtha in the Madhvacharya Sampradaya, who I studied his book earlier in summer, and he is describing the layout of the universe, and it's explained that he was a great yogi in the Madhva tradition, and he directly describes the different lokas. In the Bhagavatam there is description of the different positions and layout of the universe, but those descriptions include subtle realms as well as gross realms. As we said earlier, the gross body restricts us to a gross perception of this universe. However, if you were able to disentangle yourself from the gross perceptions and see through the subtle body, you would see the subtle realms of the universe. And this is what psychics always try to do. So to do that, you would have to perform austerities. And what is the basic principle of austerity? Tapasya, right? Prabhupada translates it in many ways, but one basic understanding is that it is voluntary control of the material senses. So what are you controlling them for? You're controlling a motor car or a Vicky or a Hero Honda, whatever, because you want to go to a certain place. So you control the senses means you withdraw it from the agitation, the senses, the agitation caused by the external phenomena that enters the senses and then enters the subtle realm, the subtle body. How do you do that? By finding something more attractive to the soul. The impersonalist, the voidist, temporarily they may restrict their consciousness from the external world and fix it on some mental conception of monistic variety or voidistic variety. However, the devotee, he withdraws his consciousness through his will, basically, from the external phenomena and even the mental phenomena, and learning to perceive his own self, he unites the consciousness of his own soul with that of the Supreme Lord. Supreme Lord is all-pervasive. So he is particularly residing within the heart. So therefore, the yogi withdraws his consciousness from the sensual and mental affairs and fixes it upon Paramatma in the heart. And this concentration enlivens the soul, and this renunciation of the agitation from the mental and physical plane develops great potency in the soul. The combination of rejecting mundane events and fixing the consciousness on the Supreme awakens the soul. And then the mystic powers that are natural to the soul become evident. And with that potency, one can control the external world. And so many mystic powers are given, 8 primary. In the later parts of the Bhagavatam, 22 secondary mystic powers are given, and the meditations to perfect them. For example, if you want to become Tri-Kala Gyan, that means you should know past, present and future. You should have precognition, and you should have cognition of the past to varying degrees according to your ability. Then you should meditate upon Vasudeva. Vasudeva means the Supreme Lord, of course, but he who lives in all phases of time and place. So if you meditate on a particular aspect of the Supreme Lord, you can correspondingly, by His grace, develop that potency within yourself. So therefore, Lord Chaitanya has directed us as sadhakas in this period, in Kali Yuga, by His grace, that we should meditate on the highest topic, the highest aspect, and this is the special thing in this Manvantara, on the loving affairs between Radha and Krishna. And of course, the ecstatic emotions of the devotees of Gaur-Nitai as they meditate upon that. If you meditate in this way, through your japa, through your study, then you will also evoke, you will awaken that within your soul. Try to understand this point. We are Tatastha Shakti, we're dependent. Supreme Lord is independent. Our consciousness becomes colored and affected by that upon which we fix the consciousness. So we should be very careful that we fix the consciousness on the transcendent. And we do that by chanting in Kali Yuga, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. So we take Ma Mantra, which is not even dependent on formal initiation, and we learn the science of chanting from a realized soul. We should never think that, oh, I know everything about chanting. There's a lot more to it. If you study actually Harinam Chintamani, and through your own investigations, you will find. So the yogis, they meditate within the heart. Actually, that is the direction of Lord Brahma. I was just reading this morning. We are all familiar with the Brahma Samhita prayers, correct? And starting with Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukham. But 2 verses before that, a few verses before that, Lord Brahma, in this, the 5th chapter of Brahma Samhita, Samhita means collection of verses glorifying the Lord. So he actually, yes, when he came to the realization, his meditation upon Lord Krishna, how did he meditate? So this is the translation of text 26, which is 3 verses before verse 29, of course, Chintamani. So, Brahma, this is how Lord Brahma meditated. Being desirous of satisfying Govinda, so this is his austerity. He didn't know what to do. He awoke upon the lotus petal, lotus flower, and he heard one word. What's the word he heard? Tapa, austerity. He was wondering, what is my origin? What is my source? Kayami, as Sanatan said to Mahaprabhu. Who am I? What am I? What is my source? Well, I'm not the Supreme, or else I wouldn't be in this ignorance and anxiety to know my true self. So what shall I do? The Supreme Lord, Tapa, through austerity. So our austerity is to go to Mangalarti, chant Hare Krishna, study the Bhagavatam, and take lots of prasad, but you'll have to wait. It's not 9 o'clock yet. So, Brahma, being desirous of satisfying Govinda, practiced the cultural acts for Krishna in Goloka. So this was his offering to Krishna, his austerity, the Lord of Svetadvip, for a long time. His meditation ran thus: there exists a divine lotus of 1,000 petals, augmented by millions of filaments, in the transcendental land of Goloka, right? So this is the base. There exists, Goloka Vrindavan is larger than the rest of the spiritual world. It is the embodiment of the Supreme Lord's abode. So he's imagining there exists a lotus of 1,000 petals, augmented by millions of filaments within the lotus, in the transcendental land of Goloka. On its whirl, that means the center, there exists a divine throne on which is seated Sri Krishna, the form of eternal effulgence of transcendental bliss, playing on his divine flute, resonant with the divine sound. With his lotus mouth he's playing. He is worshipped by his amorous milkmaids, the gopis, the Lakshmis, with their respective subjective portions and extensions. So that means Swarup Shakti, they have extensions. The Manjaris are extended from the Ashtashakis. They have their different aspects and personalities. He is worshipped by the amorous milkmaids with their respective subjective portions and extensions, and also by his external energy, who stays outside, embodying all mundane qualities. So if you read the purport, you will find that this is accordingly, Brahma meditated upon Krishna in Goloka, the object of worship, from a distance. So he worshipped in a sense of Vipralamba. So it explains here in the following purports that this is the particular benediction that Lord Brahma gives to his Brahma Sampradaya. So we are sheltered by the Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So this particular meditation of Lord Brahma, of Krishna seated on a divine throne, being worshipped by the Lakshmis, which is embodied in the 29th verse, Chintamani Prakara Sadma Sukha Upadriksha. This is our meditation of our Sampradaya, to chant Nam Rupa. So if we chant properly, we should evoke the Rupa, the form of Krishna. And this particular form of Krishna, this is also there as the Murti of the Abhideya Tattva. Right? What is that verse? Divyad Brinda Ranga Kalpadrumado Srimad Ratnaga Simhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prasthalibe Sayamano Smarami. So there it is explained also that you should perform Abhideya. That means the practices of devotion, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, with a sense of formality. Don't try to jump to Sriman Rasa Rata. You should see Krishna seated on a divine throne under a Kalpa Vriksha tree, being worshipped by the Lakshmis. And you should chant in that way, in a sense of separation. This is what is the essence of our Sampradaya. And so this meditation upon Krishna and his divine Lakshmis, this is actually being brought forth in the most perfect way by Lord Chaitanya, by Gaur Nitai. So like I say, we should be realizing Krishna through the name. And when we chant, the name is Krishna, and Krishna is not just a sound vibration that we're using to clear away Maya, but it is a sound vibration that embodies guna, rupa, the form of Krishna. Just like if I say to you, brother, you will think of what? The concept of brother, or will you think of your brother? The form of your brother. So when we chant Hare Krishna, the form of Krishna should arise. And then the guna of Krishna, the qualities. In Nectar of the Ocean, Rupa Goswami gives so many qualities, 64 of Krishna. We can meditate upon those. And then the Sangha and the Leela of Krishna. So this is the unfurling of the lotus of the spiritual world through the chanting of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. So this is our object of meditation. Now the Prachetas, they were the sons of, I did a little research, it's rather complex, so we'll get to the Prachetas. They were meditating with the desire to become Prajapatis. So they became very annoyed. We'll get into that a little later in the thing. They weren't meditating to realize Krishna, but to develop the potency to serve Krishna as Prajapatis. Lord Brahma, had approached their father, Prachani Bahi, and asked, you talk to your sons and ask them and request them to become Prajapatis. So it was on that request that they had entered into this particular austerity within the ocean for 10,000 years, like I say in Satya Yuga. Eventually, through that austerity, the Supreme Lord appeared, and they were very ecstatic. Then they came out of the ocean, and they wanted to engage as Prajapatis, but there was a problem. There was the world, because their father had also gone to perform austerities, the world had not been managed properly, and it had gone to seed. Now this is an important point, that mankind is meant to manage the universe, the planet particularly, but in a harmonious way. Right now, the earth is being raped by the modern corporate lust for profit, and the whole of the planet is becoming polluted. The rivers are polluted, the air is polluted. I was shocked to find that we hear about atomic weaponry, right? That there was 2 left in Nagasaki, Hiroshima. But actually, do you know that since those days, these idiots have exploded in the atmosphere, under the water, under the earth, more than 2,000 nuclear weapons of much greater yield. And this whole planet, it is full of radioactive particles here and there. Not satisfied with that, these maniacs want to change the genetic structure of a tomato. For thousands of years we've been happily eating tomatoes. Now we must have tomatoes with fish genes that give us cancer, but give the idiots a little profit before they go to hell. So this is the condition of Kali Yuga. This is when people meditate upon profit and sensuality. They lose all morality. But actually mankind, those that are Brahman and Kshatriya, realized in the nature of the Supreme Lord, they are meant to manage the universe from the point of view of spirituality, not from a point of view of mundane exploitation. Just like we may become the president of the temple or the manager of the Goshala, but that means we are the servant of the Goshala. We haven't become the owner of the temple, the owner of the Goshala, and everyone is now obliged to kowtow to us because we are managing the Goshala and the temple, and therefore we've become God. No, we've become the greatest servant. This is Vaishnavism. This is humanity's role, to to become the servant of the Supreme and manage all the material facilities given by the Supreme in his service. So this, Prabhupada mentions, this is what the Brahmins are meant to do. They're meant to realize that Seva Bhav and teach it to the Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudras, and even the Balisha who have no conception of Vedic Dharma anyway. So anyway, the Prachetas, they came out of the ocean and they were burning the situation, the planets, the earth, and they were restrained by Soma. But first let us get this lineage. So if we want to know this present manifestation of Daksha, who was born from Marisha, the Apsara, who was the daughter of Pramalocha Apsara, Soma was very concerned because he gives the juice of life, as it's explained in the Gita, and he is the demigod particularly involved with plants and flowers and trees. So he was very concerned to see the Prachetas lose their cool, if you like, emanate fire and wind and try to burn the whole thing to ashes. So in their frustration, hey, there's no room for population and so on and so forth. So he restrained them and cooled them down a bit and gave them a wife, and they produced Daksha. So you might wonder, where does Daksha? He was in the 4th canto, and he lost his head, right? He lost his head and insulted Lord Shiva, and then he really lost his head. So he gave up that body and he took birth. That was in Swayambhuva Manu time, and he took birth in the Chakshusha Manu in this situation. But let's go back above the Prachetas, and we start with Prithu. Prithu Maharaj had 2 sons. One was called Antardana and the other was called Vadi. Antardana married Sikandini and had one son, a special son, Haridhana. He married Dishana, who comes in the lineage of Agni. And they had as their son Prichanabari, who was one of 6 sons that they had. The 6 sons were Sukra, Gaya, Krishna, Vraja, and Ajina. And so Prachanibahi, he married Suvarna and performed tapasya, and he produced the Prachetas. And they were requested, or rather Lord Rama requested Prichanabharisha to make sure your sons become Prajapatis. I'm having a lot of problem. First of all, there's the Kumaras, they want to stay brahmachari. And there's Narada Muni. And it seems like all my sons, they're performing austerities, meditating on the Supreme Lord, and not becoming Prajapatis. And I'm supposed to populate the universe, and there's all these living entities that are due to take birth within the material universe, and the living bodies, the material bodies, are not being produced by the Prajapatis. So this is actually the source of all the varieties of life. They actually come down from higher entities in higher, more subtle, more potent realms to this earth plane and so on and so forth throughout the universe. This is the Bhagavatam explains this very clearly. So the Prachetas, yes, they took up the job, and they produced in Marisha, like I say, the son, the daughter of Pralochan, they produced Daksha. And we'll find further on in the chapter this information about the lineage. This is from the chapter 14 of Amsa 1 in the Vishnu Puran, if you want to look up and get the details. So they produced Daksha. Daksha produced from his mind a whole variety of living entities, and from his combination of his mind and samana, he produced the living entities that required gross bodies, as well as subtle bodies. That is an important point, that actually we're in the gross aspect of the universe, the most gross plane, Bhumandala. Above Bhumandala, as you go up, Bhurloka, Swargalok, Mahalok, Janalok, Tapalok, Satyalok, it becomes more subtle. And as you go below Bhumandala, Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Mahatala, Talatala, Rasatala and Patala, if you go down, it becomes also more subtle, down into the hellish regions. So we're actually having these gross bodies, but the majorities of living entities within the universe do not have such a gross situation. This is karma bhumi, but the actions performed within this gross combination and subtle combination of the material body, they have a great effect. Therefore, if you are impious on the earth plane, you may go to hell for a long time and take destiny in the lower planetary system for a very long time. Or you may go to Swargaloka and enjoy there for a very long time. Or if you perform sadhana bhakti, following the ways of Gaur-Nitai, then you can attain the Bhoma-lila, if you attain Bhava Bhakti. And in that way, you can also travel all over the universe. Prabhupada once wrote a book. It was the first book I read of Prabhupada, and it was called Easy Journey to Other Planets. It's actually, so I was, reading lots of different books, and I got it by mail order, and I thought, that sounds far out, Easy Journey to Other Planets. So, of course, Prabhupada starts talking about science and this and that, but then he explains that actually it is by becoming qualified in this life for those other regions, you will be taken to them, and you will develop the body accordingly. So it's very interesting. So Prabhupada uses the materialistic situation of this Kali Yuga and uses that as a springboard to introduce the Vedic perspective on that knowledge. And that is the vision of a Paramahamsa. He sees everything from that point of view of the Bhagavatam, from the spiritual point of view, so he's able to see the aspects of the material energy in relationship to the Supreme, and by his instruction draw people from that mistaken analysis to the spiritual understanding. That spiritual understanding is inherent to the soul. So if through austerity you can subdue the material senses, or at least regulate them, and you can learn to fix the consciousness, the subtle body is contained within the, consciousness is within the subtle body rather, if you can fix that upon the Supreme Lord, then your natural perception, your natural understanding, the soul is Satchidananda, but now we are Asat, we have a temporary body, and we are Achit, our consciousness is subject to illusion, but purified consciousness is always in a situation of truth and perception. Now we're near Anand, but you can become blissful if you purify your consciousness, and you can get your Vigraha, your Swarup, your nature, spiritual form and quality in relationship to the Supreme Lord by the grace of Krishna. And that grace is attained by the mercy of Krishna, by performing tapa. In Kali Yuga that means chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And like I say, learn the science of chanting, or never think. In one instruction Krishna gives to Uddhava in the 11th canto, in the Paramahamsa Samhita, he says that those persons that are fixed in their opinion and therefore do not listen to good instruction, or do not, who've closed their minds to alternative ideas, they have already turned their backs to me. If we think that I've come to a situation of knowledge upon which there is no improvement to be had, then we have turned our back to Krishna. So we should always understand that whatever little realization we have of the Bhagavatam and the Leela of Krishna and Gaur Nitai, that is very minimal. This is an unlimited subject matter. Krishna is unlimited. And so the more we realize Krishna, the more we realize how little we have realized of Krishna. We realize that Krishna is unlimited. And so therefore there are many great sages, and they are specializing in realizing certain aspects of the Supreme Lord. Here the Prachetas wanted to develop the potency to produce the material bodies. They wanted to become Prajapatis as the request of their father. And as we say, Gaur Nitai has appeared in this Kali Yuga, and because we have these decrepit bodies, if we can run 100 yards in 10 seconds, everyone will give us a gold medal. If we can, walk 100 miles, that will take us 5 days. We're supposed to have evolved from monkeys, but monkeys or chimpanzees, they can run 100 miles and then run 100 miles back. Survival of the fittest. If we are the fittest form of the chimpanzee, it's not very promising. If one chimpanzee came in here now, he could chase us all out very easily. We would have no chance against one chimpanzee. And we're supposed to be an evolved form of the chimpanzee because we've got a big brain. Well, if we were actually more intelligent, we would have kept our muscles, right? You keep your chimpanzee body and have a human brain at the same time. That would be survival of the fittest. But if you've actually got a big brain, why have you made your body so weak? Right? So we can hardly lift 50 kilos, right? Whoa, it's an Olympic champion. So, these are very foolish ideas. Actually, all the bodies are created by Prajapatis, empowered beings. And if you study Bhagavatam, you'll understand that. So Daksha, he took birth in this again, because like I say, he lost his head and then lost his head by insulting Lord Shiva. So he was given the head of a goat. So if you're a zoologist, you'll know that one of the potencies of a goat is that if you put one goat into a field of 100 goatesses, he'll get the whole lot pregnant. No problem, in one afternoon. So also that's survival of the fittest. Anyway, so the thing is, this human body is not meant to enjoy sex life and overeating and oversleeping and so on. It has weak senses. Why? So that they're easily controlled and the consciousness can be easily withdrawn from them. If you were a goat and you were in a field of 100 goatesses, you wouldn't be in the mood to meditate, because your senses are attuned to a certain task. But the human body is attuned for realizing transcendence. Try to understand that. So Daksha, he was given the goat's head. He wanted to be a Prajapati, but he wasn't doing it in a very Vaishnav manner, thinking, look at Lord Shiva, he's married my daughter, that's not very good. He should have been overjoyed. But this is the materialistic vision. Anyway, so he gave up that body with the goat's head. If I gave a goat's head to you, and you would also feel, I think maybe it's time to leave this one and get a human face again. So then he took birth in this situation. So of course it talks about, and then he chanted. He wasn't satisfied with the production of bodies that he was creating after this initial bout of creation of bodies. So then he went to a holy mountain, a distant place, and he chanted the Hamsa-guhya prayers. And through that he developed more potency in the service of Krishna. So we shouldn't think, because Daksha is Sakam, he wants to serve Krishna in this way. We shouldn't think, oh, we want to serve Gaurnitai in transcendence, therefore we are superior. We should not think that. The Vaishnava is the servant of everyone. We should have great respect for these personalities, even though they are performing activities that seem less than perfect. If you're a fault finder, you can never understand anything. You can never understand a person by being a fault finder of that person. You have to have compassion, and you have to have the spiritual point of view, and then you can understand reality and people and the situations. So Daksha is a great personality that performs a great service for the Supreme Lord, giving these and creating all the varieties of bodies. There are different Prajapatis. It explains later on in the chapter that he had daughters. It's explained there, Vishwanath Chakravarti in the purport. He explains that it appears that Daksha only produced daughters. So there are other Prajapatis that will be producing other empowered male offspring, and they will be combining with these empowered daughters of Daksha and producing a whole variety. And if you study Bhagavatam and other literatures on this subject, Vedic literatures, it will give you a good picture of this. For instance, Kadamba Muni, right? And his wife, Devahuti, correct? So there's many Prajapatis, and that is one of the big concerns of Lord Brahma. But Narada Muni, the Kumaras, so on and so forth, they went to the spiritual side. Let me not agitate mind and body in this material creation. Let me meditate upon transcendence. So one very important line in the Hamsa-guhya prayers is, and we'll finish on this point, is that if somebody has adopted the Supreme Lord as their target, if you have made your goal in life, whether you're Grihastha, Vaishya, Shudra, Kshatriya, whatever work you're doing, if you have focused your mind upon the Supreme Lord as the goal of life, then you have attained spiritual knowledge. This is a very interesting point. That if you have adopted the Supreme Lord as your goal, then you have attained spiritual knowledge. So somebody who's heard about the Supreme Lord but doesn't adopt the realization of the Supreme Lord as his goal or her goal, then that person has not truly attained spiritual knowledge. So we should absorb ourselves in the Bhagavatam, and the natural effect will be that the attractive nature of the name, form, qualities and the Leela of Krishna become revealed to us, and then we will become enthused to perform sadhana with greater intensity. Like the Prachetas, we can take example from them. Can you imagine their determination to meditate in this way? 10,000 years. But we should have greater determination, but not for some material potency, but to attain Krishna Prem. And the essence of that process is Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And Kevalananda Kanda. It's all blissful. In Kali Yuga, we can't do these big austerities. We have to be happy. Like we say, chant and be happy. But actually, our process is to chant in separation. Chant and suffer in separation. That is actually the methodology given by Mahaprabhu. What is that verse? Nayanam gladasrudharaya, right? Vipralamba seva bhav. So we should cultivate and understand these topics from our Guru, from our sadhus, from the Shastra. And then in one lifetime, no matter what any astrology tells you, you can attain Krishna Prem. Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Thank you all very much. If there's a... Thank you very much. Anyway, if maybe you like to go to Prashad, or you can have a quick question. All right, go to Prashad. Thank you very much indeed. Srila Prabhupada, Srimad Bhagavatam, Sadhu Sangha, Gaur Nitai Ki Jai.